The sky was dry, cracked like old leather, and the earth beneath it worse. For 3 years, not a single drop of rain had fallen on Israel. Crops failed, rivers dried up, cattle dropped dead in the dust. And yet King Ahab and his wicked queen Jezebel refused to see what was plainly before them. This drought was not merely weather. It was divine judgment, a rebuke from the God of Israel. And the man who spoke it into existence was a prophet like no other. His name was Elijah. He came from Tishbe, a nobody from nowhere. Yet when he stood before Ahab, he carried the weight of heaven on his shoulders. As surely as the Lord lives, the God of Israel whom I serve, Elijah had said, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. And then he vanished. That word brought a silence that blanketed the land in death. Ahab fumed. Jezebel seethed. Jezebel, the foreign queen from Sidon, daughter of a Baal priest, had not merely introduced idol worship, she made it law. She fed 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah at her own table, while slaughtering the prophets of the Lord like livestock. Elijah was hunted. His name was whispered with hatred in the palace halls, his image pinned to every tree, the most wanted man in Israel. But Elijah was hidden, not by shadows or caves, but by God himself. The Lord led him east to the brook of Kerith, where ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and evening. When the brook dried, Elijah was sent to Zarephath, deep in enemy territory, in Jezebel's own homeland. There, a starving widow and her son became God's unlikely instruments. Her jar of flour and jug of oil never ran out, and when her boy died, Elijah laid him on the bed, stretched himself over him 3 times, and cried, Lord my God, let this child's life return to him. The boy breathed again. Even in hiding, Elijah walked in miracles. But the time came to step back into the fire. In the 3rd year of the drought, God said, Go, present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. Elijah obeyed. He walked right into the storm of Jezebel's wrath and Ahab's hatred, fearless. When Ahab saw him, his voice spat venom. Is that you, you troubler of Israel? Elijah didn't blink. I have not made trouble for Israel, he said, but you and your father's house have. You've abandoned the Lord's commands and followed Baal. Then came the challenge. Summon all Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel. Bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah. 1 man versus 850. 1 true God versus false idols. The entire nation gathered to watch. Mount Carmel became the stage for a divine showdown. Elijah stood alone, but not afraid. He turned to the people, not to the prophets nor the king, but to the hearts of Israel. How long will you waver between 2 opinions? He cried. If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him. They said nothing. So Elijah proposed a test. 2 bulls, 2 altars, no fire. Each side would prepare a sacrifice and call on their God. The God who answered with fire, he is God. The people agreed. The prophets of Baal went first. From morning until noon, they danced around their altar, shouting, Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, no response. They leaped and howled, slashed themselves with swords and spears until blood flowed, their cries becoming desperate. Elijah watched and mocked. Shout louder. Maybe he's deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened. Still, nothing. No fire, no God. Then it was Elijah's turn. He rebuilt the altar of the Lord, long abandoned, using 12 stones, 1 for each tribe of Israel. He dug a trench around it, arranged the wood, and laid the bull on top. Then, to make the impossible undeniable, he ordered 12 jars of water poured over the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, until the trench overflowed. Then Elijah prayed. No shouting, no dancing, just 12 calm, powerful lines. Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant. Answer me, Lord, so these people will know that you are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then heaven tore open. Fire fell, real fire. Not sparks or smoke, but roaring, consuming flame. It devoured the bull, the wood, the stones, even the water. It scorched the altar and licked the dust off the ground. The people dropped to their knees, faces to the dirt. The Lord, He is God, the Lord, He is God. Elijah seized the moment, seized the prophets of Baal. He commanded. Not one escaped. They were taken to the Kishon Valley and slaughtered. But Elijah wasn't done. Rain still hadn't fallen. He climbed to the top of the mountain, knelt with his face between his knees, and prayed. Then he sent his servant to look toward the sea. Nothing. He prayed again and again, 7 times. On the 7th, the servant returned with news. A cloud, as small as a man's hand, is rising from the sea. Elijah stood. He told Ahab to hitch his chariot and ride before the storm stopped him. And then the skies opened. Rain fell in sheets. Wind howled across the plains. After 3 years of drought, the land drank deep, and Elijah, filled with the power of the Lord, ran ahead of Ahab's chariot all the way to Jezreel. A prophet outrunning horses, racing the storm he had prayed for. But Jezebel was not broken. When she heard what happened, her fury exploded. She sent a message to Elijah. May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like one of them. Elijah, the fire caller, the prophet of Mount Carmel, fled. He ran into the wilderness, collapsed beneath a broom tree, and begged to die. I've had enough, Lord, take my life. The same man who faced hundreds now felt crushed by one woman's rage. But God did not scold him. Instead, He sent an angel. Twice the angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." Strengthened by that heavenly meal, Elijah traveled 40 days and nights to Mount Horeb. There he entered a cave and waited. God told him to stand on the mountain. A wind tore through the cliffs, but God wasn't in the wind. An earthquake shook the ground, but God wasn't in the quake. Fire followed, but God wasn't in the fire. Then came a gentle whisper, and Elijah covered his face. God was not only in the dramatic, He was in the stillness too. In that whisper, Elijah found purpose again. God told him to anoint new kings and raise up a successor, Elisha. Though Elijah felt alone, God revealed that 7,000 in Israel had not bowed to Baal. The fire on Mount Carmel was not the end. It was only the beginning. The war for Israel's soul would rage on. But Elijah had done what few could. He stood alone, called down fire, and proved once and for all that the Lord, He is God.